plague, the Black Death. We've all heard of these names. After all, it's responsible for up to 50 million deaths in Europe alone, about 60% of the population. However, most people don't actually know what this disease is. So it might prove wise, considering we've had to deal with pretty recent pandemics, to go back in history and look at the past plagues that humanity has dealt with and how we can learn from them. We'll learn about the origins of the bubonic plague, how it spread so quickly and caused the deaths of so many, and how it has affected humanity as a whole. So first, let's examine the origins. According to Jonathan Kennedy, in his book Pathogenesis, A History of the World in 8 Plagues, which was published recently in 2023, the bacterium Yersinia pestis first emerged as the disease we now know, the bubonic plague, about 5,000 years ago. However, it wasn't spread the way we know it is now today until about the mid-6th century, when it reemerged, now carried by infected fleas on rats. This was during the Justinian Empire of Rome, and it was estimated that during this time of peace, it wiped out about 250,000 lives. As brought out in an article entitled Bubonic Plague by the National Museum of Australia, it took many, many years until scientists actually figured out the true cause of the disease. It wasn't until 1894 that epidemiologists Alexander Yersin and Kitasato Shibasuburo first discovered the pathogen itself. The theory, though, of fleas as being the transmitters or vectors wasn't widely accepted, despite having been proven by a French epidemiologist, Paul-Louis Simond, in 1896. It wasn't until Australian scientists John Ashburton Thompson actually isolated the disease in infected fleas found on rats during the Australian outbreak that it was finally widely accepted by the scientific community. Now, I'll tell you about the 3 major pandemics caused by this. There was the Justinian, as was mentioned previously, the European, which is the one we've all more heard of, and the Australasian, which took place during the 18th and 1900s. Though the first major outbreak did occur during the mid-6th century, it's really the second one that we know about in medieval Europe. Most likely, it arrived over the Silk trade route and then spread like wildfire across Europe, killing an estimated 50 million people. However, it was also due to later outbreaks over the next 400 years that so many lives were taken, because thousands more would die in later outbreaks. In the same article by the American Journal of Medicine, it highlighted the symptoms of the disease, what the people then and now today would see. People affected would develop very high fevers, severe headaches, and terrible pain in their limbs. However, the classic sign, though, are buboes, which are extremely swollen lymph nodes. Now, these lymph nodes are really what often cause death because they will eventually swell so much that they burst, and it's really the overwhelming amount of infection that takes a life. There is also, though, a much rarer form that's a septic form of the plague that is what earns it the name the Black Plague, because it causes gangrene-like infections in the limbs, turning skin black. Finally, how the disease has shaped humanity on the whole. It's not only had a physical toll on humanity, but it has shaped us culturally, emotionally, mentally. In Jonathan Kennedy's book, Pathogenesis, A History of the World in 8 Plagues, it highlights how the spread of the plague actually brought about cultural attitude shifts and also the fall of an economy run by serfdom and the rise of one run by capitalism. It highlights the fact that there was a severe anti-Semitic attitude as a result of many members of society blaming their Jewish neighbors for the plague's occurrence. This caused the deaths of many Jews, and the rest had to flee to safe havens like countries such as Poland. The plague also, though, allowed the rise of the Ottoman Empire, which would shape a lot of history in the future, because the Roman Empire that had controlled a large portion of Europe would eventually fall. As Charles Kennan in his book, The Plague Cycle, The Unending War Between Humanity and Infectious Diseases, published recently in 2021, brings out, people then started to look to labor-saving devices because there was a lot less people able to work on the farms. And the sudden drop in farm labor also meant that more jobs were available that required less labor, jobs that could be filled by women, which gave many a better opportunity at life. They got to live longer, healthier lives. In summary, humanity has has been ravaged by the effects of this disease for many, many years, with millions of deaths. However, it has also had major cultural and economic effects on humanity over the years. By looking to the past, we can learn for the future. So perhaps by looking to the past plagues and their effects on mankind, we can better prepare ourselves for the diseases that we will eventually face in the future, as our dealings with disease are definitely not over. Thank you.